The rain hit the pavement like 1,000 tiny accusations, each drop a reminder of everything Sarah Mitchell had lost. She stood under the flickering streetlight outside the downtown bus station, her cardboard sign sagging in her trembling hands. Anything helps. God bless. 3 years ago, she'd been wearing a power suit and closing real estate deals. Now, at 42, she wore donated clothes that didn't quite fit and carried everything she owned in a backpack that dug into her shoulders like the weight of her mistakes. But it wasn't the rain or the hunger or even the shame that broke her heart tonight. It was the little girl across the street, maybe 7 years old, holding her mother's hand and staring at Sarah with eyes full of questions. Sarah saw herself in that girl once upon a time, innocent and certain that bad things only happened to bad people. She turned away, unable to bear the reflection of who she used to be. "Excuse me, ma'am?" Sarah looked up to find a young woman standing before her. Couldn't have been more than 25, with kind eyes and a gentle smile that seemed out of place in this harsh corner of Seattle. She wore scrubs decorated with cartoon characters, her hospital ID badge swinging from her neck. Her name tag read Maya. "I'm sorry, I don't have any cash on me," Maya said, and Sarah felt the familiar sting of disappointment. "But I just got off a double shift, and I was about to grab dinner at that diner across the street. Would you join me? My treat." Sarah's first instinct was to refuse. Pride had a way of surviving even when everything else died. But Maya's expression held no pity, only warmth. And Sarah's stomach had been empty for 2 days. She nodded, barely trusting her voice. Inside the bright warmth of the diner, Sarah felt exposed under the fluorescent lights. Other customers glanced their way, some with curiosity, others with thinly veiled disgust. But Maya seemed oblivious to it all, chatting easily about the weather, about her shift at the children's hospital, about anything except the obvious questions hanging in the air. "Order whatever you want," Maya said, sliding a laminated menu across the table. "Seriously, anything. I get paid tomorrow, and tonight I feel like celebrating being alive." Sarah's hands shook as she held the menu. When was the last time someone had treated her like a person instead of a problem? The waitress came, and Sarah ordered modestly soup and a sandwich. Maya ordered the same, plus 2 slices of pie. "So," Maya said after the waitress left, "I'm going to tell you something, and I hope you don't mind. But I feel like I need to." She paused, her fingers tracing patterns on the table. 5 years ago, my mom was where you are now, living on the streets after my dad left and she lost her job. I was in nursing school, working part-time, barely keeping my own head above water. I couldn't help her the way I wanted to. Sarah felt her throat tighten. Maya continued, her voice soft but steady. "A stranger bought her a meal one night, just like this, and that stranger listened to her story without judgment. That one act of kindness," my mom said later, reminded her that she was still human, still worthy. It was the turning point. She got into a shelter that week, found a support group, eventually got back on her feet. She's a paralegal now, living in Tacoma with her 3 cats. Tears rolled down Sarah's cheeks before she could stop them. "I'm sorry," she whispered, fumbling for a napkin. "I don't usually—" "Don't apologize," Maya said, reaching across the table to gently touch Sarah's hand. "Not for feeling. Not to me." The food arrived, and Sarah ate slowly, savoring every bite as if it were a 5-star meal. Maya told stories about the kids at the hospital, about a 4-year-old who insisted that unicorns were real and had scientific evidence to prove it, about a teenager who'd beaten cancer and celebrated by dyeing his hair bright purple. Sarah found herself laughing, actually laughing for the first time in months. "Can I ask what happened?" Maya ventured as they finished their pie. "Only if you want to share." Sarah took a deep breath. She'd told this story in her head 1,000 times, but saying it out loud to this kind stranger felt different, necessary even. "My daughter Emma got sick when she was 16. Leukemia. The medical bills piled up faster than I could count them. I had insurance, but it wasn't enough. Never enough. I took out loans, maxed out credit cards, sold everything. She fought so hard." Sarah's voice cracked. "For 2 years she fought. And I was with her every single day. I lost my job because I couldn't leave her side. Lost the house because I couldn't make the payments. And then 3 years ago, I lost her. Maya's eyes glistened with tears. I'm so sorry. The worst part, Sarah continued, needing to finish now that she'd started, is that after she died, I couldn't figure out how to keep living. I fell into this dark place where nothing mattered anymore. My family tried to help, but I pushed them away. I was drowning in grief and debt, and eventually I just let go of everything. I thought maybe if I disappeared, the pain would too. But you're still here, Maya said softly. That takes incredible strength. Sarah shook her head. I'm not strong. I'm barely surviving. Surviving is strength, Maya insisted. Every single day you wake up and keep going. Despite everything, that's courage. My mom taught me that. They sat in silence for a moment, the diner's chatter filling the space between them. Then Maya pulled out her phone. I'm going to give you a number, she said, writing on a napkin. It's for a friend of mine who runs a women's shelter downtown. They have space right now, and they have counselors who specialize in grief therapy. Will you call them? Sarah looked at the number, fear and hope warring in her chest. I don't know if I can. You don't have to decide right now, Maya said. Just keep the number. And here. She pulled out a $20 bill and tucked it into Sarah's hand. I know I said I didn't have cash, but I keep this for emergencies. I think tonight qualifies. I can't take this, Sarah protested. Yes, you can. Because someday, when you're back on your feet, you're going to do the same thing for someone else. That's how this works. We lift each other up. As they stood to leave, Maya hugged Sarah, a real hug that felt like coming home. You matter, she whispered. Your life matters. Emma would want you to live. Sarah walked back out into the rain, but something had shifted. The napkin with the shelter's number was tucked safely in her pocket, and for the first time in 3 years, she felt a tiny spark of possibility. She thought about Maya's mother, about how one meal from a stranger had changed everything. She thought about Emma, who'd faced her illness with more bravery than Sarah had ever mustered, and she thought about the little girl who'd stared at her earlier, wondering if Sarah might one day be the person on the other side of that gaze, the one who'd found her way back. The next morning, Sarah made the call. The woman who answered had a voice like honey and said they had a bed available that very night. Sarah cried when she hung up, but these were different tears. These carried relief and fear and hope all tangled together. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. The shelter was just the beginning of a long, difficult journey. There were setbacks and dark days when grief threatened to pull her under again. But there were also counseling sessions where she slowly learned to carry Emma's memory without letting it crush her. There were job training programs and small victories, like the day she got her first paycheck from a part-time position at a bookstore. And 1 year later, on a rainy night that mirrored the one that had changed her life, Sarah found herself in that same diner. She was waiting for someone, a young mother she'd met at the shelter who reminded her of herself a year ago, lost, afraid, but still fighting. When the woman arrived, Sarah smiled the way Maya had smiled at her. Order whatever you want, she said, sliding the menu across the table. Tonight we celebrate being alive, because that was the truth Maya had taught her. Kindness wasn't just a gift you gave. It was a torch you passed on, a light that grew brighter with each hand it touched. And in a world that could be so brutally dark, that light was everything. Sarah thought of Maya often, though they'd exchanged numbers that night and stayed in touch. Maya had been right. Surviving was its own form of courage. And now, watching hope dawn in another woman's eyes, Sarah understood something even deeper. Healing wasn't about forgetting the pain or pretending the scars didn't exist. It was about choosing, every single day, to let love be louder than loss. The rain continued outside, but inside the diner, two women shared a meal and the unspoken promise that tomorrow could be different, that they could be different, that sometimes all it takes to change a life is someone willing to see the human beneath, the hurt, and say, you matter. Let me show you. And in that moment, surrounded by the clatter of dishes and the hum of conversation, Sarah finally understood what Emma had been trying to teach her all along, that the opposite of death isn't survival. It's living, really truly living, and that was exactly what she intended to do.